The Locked On Podcast Network presents the College Sports Big 3 in 30. The 3 biggest stories in college sports. From our local experts at the Locked On Podcast Network. We bring you the real story. Why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 30 minutes. The College Sports Big 3 in 30 starts now with the biggest story in college sports. You are Locked On College Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Look, Tennessee is a 9.5-point dog on the road at the time of this recording. That total is at 48.5. I think in large part, guys, at the time of this recording, and truly I think it's going to be a day-by-day thing, and we're not going to know until later in the week, the health and status of Tennessee quarterback Nico Iamaleava. On Tuesday night, one national media member said that he's out. Another national media member said that he's playing. Another national media member. You
said national media member, and you lost me there. We just can't take that seriously.
My point is, those guys have nothing to lose, right? I mean, they're just throwing stuff out there. It's truly a day-by-day thing with what he's going through right now. So I think that line's influenced that. I mean, I still Georgia was going to be favored. I'd probably have Georgia around, 6, maybe 7 or something. If Nico was, full go right now. So what do you guys think? How does Georgia win this football game? I would assume you guys are taking the dogs.
Yeah, we're going to take the dogs.
Yeah, if you have Sanford Stadium at night as a 12-point advantage, then yeah, I think you could justify favoring Georgia by 6 or 7. But based on what we've seen on the field this year, I don't think there's any justification for Georgia being favored this high. Georgia has not looked good consistently this season. They have had spurts and moments where they have played well. Now, the good news for Georgia is that they only have to play one game on Saturday night. They don't have to play 4 or 5 games in a row of looking good. They only need one good shot against Tennessee. And so, and I do like them to do it. I like them to do it because I like the Kirby Smart, Josh Heupel matchup, if I'm just going to be totally honest. I like Kirby scheming defense against Josh Heupel scheming offense. Until I'm proven otherwise, I'm going to assume that he's got that puzzle solved. And so I like Georgia, even if Nico plays. I'm basing all of this on the fact that Nico is going to play. So I like Georgia to win this game. One, because the home atmosphere, I think the fans are hungry because, as you mentioned, I mean, Georgia played 3 home games this year, Eric. 3 home games this year.
Yeah, two neutral sites, right?
Yeah, and it's week 12 of the season, and we played 3 home games so far. Georgia fans are hungry. A night game against Tennessee, backs against the wall, as Clint mentioned earlier. And so I'm going to go with the dogs, probably by a touchdown. I think somewhere in the neighborhood of, 24-17, maybe.
Clint, before you give your pick, I mean, the great coaches do this, so I'm not trying to make. I mean, I'm making fun, but I'm also not trying to make fun. What's Kirby Smart telling his teams this year? I mean, how bad does everybody in America think that they're awful? They're a horrible football team. I mean, he had his team convinced last year they were the 5th best teams in the SEC East. I mean, how does that work? Kirby Smart is going to just absolutely, it's us against the world, just like the great coaches do. But I feel like he's certainly going to be on one this week.
This year they're right, though. This year we are awful. Yes. So this year, that's the one difference is this year we are really actually awful.
There ain't no coach speak going on. Just speak is happening. No, I think what's really wild is that early on in the season, we saw a very comforting cuddle like Kirby Smart. And we saw even with Carson Beck, he's our guy. He's the best quarterback we have. I'd rather have no other quarterback than him. You hear that over there. Now, behind the scenes, you are going to start seeping out a little bit. He called a player Pope celebrating with opposing fans.
Which was fair.
100%. But that was a crack out of character for Kirby. Yeah. Usually he has Kirby all day long. So I think the frustration is mounting for him. I think he is going to be on one with the guys this week. And I think his messaging has been everything we want is still in front of us with how awful and how horrible and how bad it's been. Everything is still in front of us. And Nobody thinks we can do it, guys. Yes, of course. Look where they ranked us. They ranked us near the outside of the playoff. We beat Tennessee. We go and we take care of business in a cupcake, and then we beat down our rival. We are in the playoff, and we are everywhere we want to be. We get a couple weeks to prepare. We're going to be back here in Athens for a game, hopefully. You know, all of that takes place. So I think that's his messaging. Everything we want, one game ahead. And he's right. You win this game. And so it doesn't have to just be coach speak. It is truth and coach speak at the same time. It's really wild to me. The way in which you beat Kirby Smart defensively, scheming wise, is not with a passing game that is elaborate and tries to hit the one hit and goes and that big, deep, intermediate, and then short. That's how you do it. Texas couldn't do that. That's Steve Sarkisian a little bit. Josh Heupel, Steve Sarkisian are more in that side of the Venn diagram than they're not. The way in which you beat Kirby Smart, Jackson Dart did not play a particularly great game passing wise. He ran really, really well. Ole Miss ran the ball extremely well, and they hit a couple pot shots to get the passing game going. So if Tennessee, and that's where Kirby Smart comes into Josh Heupel. He knows that system, Josh's passing system. So Tennessee wants to rely on the run. That is where you're going to have to beat Kirby Smart. Is just going to say, we're going to beat you up front in the trenches and we're going to outmaul you. And I think there's a good shot they can do that. Even if they did that to keep the game close, I still like Georgia by a touchdown. I don't like the point spread is a lot, but 7 points is much more like it. I would have put this spread at 5.5 if I had to choose, but Vegas knows better than me.
Jalen Milroe ran on Georgia. Obviously, Jackson Dart ran on Georgia. Nico's got the ability. He doesn't try to run, but he's got that ability. That's not Gas and Moore's game. So, I think that'd be something huge if Nico obviously is out of this game. I think, I'm going to pick Georgia to win this game. I mean, right now, there's no reason for me to pick against them because of these factors. Health, not just your quarterback, which is the most important thing. Where's Dante Thornton now? He's your big play guy. Where are your guards at right now? Tennessee's a bit banged up. As I mentioned, road games have kind of been giving Josh Heupel some issues here at Tennessee, and it's going to be loud and rowdy. I think Georgia's got back against the wall. And I think Georgia's a solid football team. I don't think Georgia's as dominant as it's been in years past, but I still think it's a solid football team. I do think it's going to be close, and that's if, Nico is playing or not playing. I think it's going to be a close game. I think Tennessee's defense is going to show up and give this offense every opportunity. I think the run game is for the first time since Josh Heupel's been here, I think Tennessee's going to have a successful running day. I'm not saying they're going to go off, but I like this offensive line, and I like Dylan Sampson a lot. So I think it's going to be close. Because of all the uncertainties right now with health and status, especially the quarterback, I'll certainly go with Georgia. But I think I'm with you guys as well. I'll say Tennessee covers, and I'll say that you're probably under that 48.5 as well. Again, elimination game for Georgia. For Tennessee, if you lose this game, you do need some help. You need to be, relevant in the eyes of the committee and all that type of stuff. But as you guys pointed out, Kirby's message is control what you can control. Everything's out in front of you. Same thing for Tennessee. Everything's right out there in front of Tennessee. Yeah, so
for sure,
control what you can control. Boys, what do you got coming up the rest of the week so that my listeners and viewers can get more scout on Georgia? What do you got coming up on Friday?
Yeah, Friday we'll be back. Locked On Bulldogs, YouTube, audio, wherever you get your podcast. We'll be talking about things Georgia fans are excited about, things Georgia fans are probably nervous about, and things that people maybe aren't thinking about, things you're maybe sleeping on. That's our typical Friday show. So we'll do that on Friday, and then you can always follow us, Dogs Podcast over there on the X, and we'd love to interact with you, Tennessee fans, except for that Voldemort guy.
No, that guy's
not you. Not you.
No, we've got enough of that. Our buckets are full. Eric, what about our fans? Where can they find you and get your stuff?
Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Curation makes it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and more near you. You can take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time.
Can LSU get back on track? Is DJ Lagway going to play?
You are Locked On LSU, your daily podcast on the LSU Tigers.
You mentioned DJ Lagway, which is just I don't know if he's playing, honestly. At this point, I think this is truly going to be a case where it comes down to the wire. I know that last week I was told on like Wednesday, no DJ Lagway. But I wanted to talk a little bit about LSU first, but just how you guys rebound from this. Because I feel like you're at the point where when you guys played Texas A&M, it was, okay, we got a decent shot at playoffs. You know, we control most of our own destiny. Probably going to drop a game in that stretch where it was A&M Alabama. Of course, you drop both of them there. So just from a mentality standpoint, I have to ask how you think this team rebounds from that, where, you know, three losses at this point, 21st in the country, not exactly inside the college football playoff right now.
Yeah, I think the team is probably fine. I think young people are way more resilient. The fan base is not. And Brandon, this is wild. So think about, so you brought up A&M. So think about this. After the USC loss to open the season, LSU wins 6 straight. They beat Ole Miss, which was a massive win at the time. It still looks awesome now. You bludgeon Arkansas, who at the time, remember, Arkansas was coming off a bye, and the last time we'd seen them, they upset Tennessee on their home field. So that looked like a great win. And you're going to A&M as a top 10 team. The only 2 unbeaten teams left in SEC play. You're on the road, and midway through the third quarter, you're up 10, and your defense is so overwhelming they bench their quarterback. Like, you're feeling really good at that moment as an LSU fan, right? In the 5.5 quarters since, 5.5 quarters, these 5.5 quarters went so badly that people are now like, is Brian Kelly the guy? Should they bench Garrett Nussmeier? Is the program progressing? I mean, it has been an incredible about face, and it really boils down to they couldn't tackle Marcel Reed, and they couldn't tackle Jalen Milroe. It is hard to explain how it all. It's easy to explain. They couldn't tackle those 2 guys. It's hard to understand why they couldn't come up with any semblance of a plan against those 2 guys. But specifically about, you know, the feeling internally, man, I think they're young people. They're resilient. They get to go play a game on Saturday. But for Brian Kelly, for the coaching staff, for the administration, the fan, all the way on down, like, they have to go beat Florida on Saturday. Like, you cannot lose this game to a team that might be playing a 3rd-string quarterback that just had to give the vote of confidence to their coach.
Yeah, I mean, I hate that you mentioned 3rd-string quarterback already, because that one is just, that broke my heart last week with the Texas game was just brutal. But this offense for LSU, I feel like explosive at times, and one of the most pass-happy teams in all of college football, not even just the SEC right now. I mean, Garrett Nussmeier has the most volume stats around for a lot of it. He's been inconsistent in recent weeks, we'll say. He's been turnover prone, and I think for Florida, that's where you really have to key in. So do you get to a point where you genuinely entertain the conversation of, is it time to bench Garrett Nussmeier if there's turnovers about again this weekend?
It's a good question. And Brian Kelly was asked that Wednesday on the SEC coaches teleconference. Before the question could even be finished being asked, he jumped in and said no. And I think, so I believe him for a couple of reasons. Number one, you don't really have a great option behind him. If you had a veteran quarterback that you felt good about, you could go to. But the backup for Garrett Nussmeier is Ricky Collins, who's a redshirt freshman from Baton Rouge. And really, we've only seen him very limited mop-up duty. There's no way that I would want Ricky Collins. I would willingly put Ricky Collins on the field in key situations against Florida in the Swamp as your first action. This isn't like week 2 against Nichols, where no matter how badly he plays, you're going to win the game. So that's one part. The other part of it is, for the bulk of this season, Garrett Nussmeier is the reason you've even been a contender. Your rushing offense, I believe right now, is 113th in America. It's so odd to say about an LSU team, but they cannot run the football. And because they have not been unable to run the ball and establish the line of scrimmage, Garrett Nussmeier has had to throw the ball 40, 50 times a game. And because he's been so efficient doing it, it's how they won 6 straight games. So no, they're not going to bench Nussmeier. Their path to winning against Florida or any game heretofore is Garrett Nussmeier playing like the guy he did when they won 6 straight. And Brandon, he's on pace to have the 3rd highest passing total in LSU history, behind only Joe Burrow, who threw for 5,600 yards, and Jaden Daniels, who threw for 3,800 yards in just 12 games. Remember, he didn't play in the bowl game or an SEC championship. So you're talking about a pretty incredible pace behind only 2 Heisman winners that Nussmeier's on right now.
Yeah, I mean, I will also say this, of course, the obvious Nussmeier connection with Florida and LSU is something that I think fans look into way more than maybe the teams are looking into it. I don't think that they're really like, oh, well, the Nussmeier connection.
He told a story. I don't know if you heard, but he told a story when he was meeting with the media about the 2016 game. Of course, the one that got moved because of Hurricane Matthew, and when Darius guys went the wrong way and got stuffed at the line of scrimmage. And it was funny because the way Garrett was telling the story is he was saying we, meaning Florida. And then he was talking about 2012 Bama, saying we, because in the context of telling the story, he was talking about his dad's team. And he stopped himself and he's like, it's so weird that I keep saying we, talking about them, because I don't like them anymore. But it's the life of a coach's kid, right? So he even is well aware of obviously the connection and the fond memories he has, when his dad was coaching there.
It's like one of those things where, like, oh, like I sit on both sides of the fence, so I'm always right. He's just like, I support all these teams. So
I don't think he supports the Gators anymore, dog. I don't think that's part of his DNA anymore.
I'm letting you know, I'm firing off a tweet. If he throws a pick, I'm firing off a tweet that he's trying to make it happen. He's doing it for us. I get it. He wants the Gators to get bowl eligible, keep Billy. Maybe he's just playing the long con of keeping Billy in Gainesville. These chestnut checkers here. Looking at the LSU defense, I wanted to ask about them because you've mentioned some wild struggles with tackling quarterbacks specifically, but just in general, right now, LSU is one of the worst run defenses in the SEC. Is there any hope for getting that figured out, or is there any change of plan? Do you just get aggressive as hell with saying, hey, it's either injured DJ Lagway or Aiden Warner back there? But I feel like if Florida wants any chance to win, they need to be able to run the ball effectively at this point, regardless of who's available. So that's like something I need to key in on with this LSU defense.
So the defense does 2 things well. The LSU defense can cover pretty well, which was a major problem a year ago. But they brought Corey Raymond back. They're healthy at corner. They can cover pretty well. It ain't Derek Stingley out there. Okay. Like they ain't got all Americans, but they can cover pretty well. And they are really good at rushing the passer. They're one of the tops in the SEC in sacks, TFLs. Blake Baker does a great job of getting creative with how he draws up pressure, and LSU is very good at getting home and affecting the passer. What they've struggled at, and it's not just stopping the run, it's when you've had the creative ability with a running quarterback. For example, Lenora Sellers ripped off a 75-yarder against LSU. In that game, Rocket Sanders ripped off a 67-yarder against LSU. We saw last week Jalen Milroe ripped off a 72-yarder. It all starts with the quarterback's ability to run the football, where LSU has struggled. I mean, you can look at those key points throughout the entire season because there have been games where they've done exceptionally well defending the run. But when they have to deal with a running quarterback, be it single wing or however, whatever formation an offense wants to run out of it, if you have that dynamic, that element, LSU's been on it. The only time they stopped it was against Arkansas. And Taylor Green had a knee injury. Jaquindon Jackson injured his ankle. So maybe they weren't as dynamic and explosive as they possibly could be. But LSU held them to 38 rushing yards on their home field. And that's one of the reasons why people looked last week, me included. I said, look, they've shown they can do it. The Marcel Reed thing was an outlier because it was a sudden change mid-game. They weren't ready for it. Now you had 2 weeks to prepare for Milroe. You should have a plan. And then they didn't have no plan. Or if they had a plan, they couldn't execute the plan. So I'm fascinated to see if Lagway plays. I don't think Austin Warner is going to hurt LSU with his feet. But if Lagway plays and he's healthy, he's got the ability to do it. And that I think is maybe the biggest question of the game.
Yeah, absolutely there. I will say that I think this is a little bit of penance for having Jaden Daniels run over every single defense last year. They're like, hey, well, guess what? Now everyone is doing it to you there. And 2, as you're talking, I just keep thinking about man, I really need DJ Lagway to be as healthy as possible. Guys, ever feel like you need a little boost in the bedroom? It's time to stop worrying about your performance and get Hims so you can feel confident knowing you can get hard and stay hard whenever you're in the mood. Hims is changing men's healthcare by providing you with access to affordable sexual health treatments from the comfort of your couch. Hims provides access to a range of doctor-trusted ED treatments like chewable hard mints and Viagra and Cialis, and their generics for up to 95% cheaper. The process is 100% online, so there's no need for uncomfortable doctor's visits. Start your free online visit today at hims.com/lockedon. That's HIMS.com/lockedon for your personalized ED treatment options. hims.com/lockedon. The products mentioned are chewable compounded products which are not approved by or verified for safety or effectiveness by the FDA. Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Prices vary based on products and subscription plan.
So, as Clark Lee and staff decide to take time during the bye week to evaluate the roster, make some crucial decisions will be made regarding what to look for in the portal versus high school recruiting, all that stuff. One of those decisions is the quarterback position. Diego Pavia has made a motion for a temporary restraining order. That was denied. He wanted to buy some more time as far as buying another year of eligibility. So, what's next? Okay. And here's the thing with Pavia's lawsuit. Okay, and this is the update. Again, the restraining order was denied according to court documents. This is in an article on Vandy 247. But Pavia sued the NCAA last week. He wanted entitlement to an extra season of eligibility. U.S. District Judge William Campbell ruled that his temporary restraining order, which was going to buy him some time, does not mean that Pavia has lost the case. It just means the NCAA will have a chance to respond and a hearing will take place. That's all quoted from this article written by Robbie Weinstein of Vandy 247. He requested that a temporary restraining order. He thought that would ensure his 2025 season and his eligibility. And well, here's the catch. The transfer portal opens December 9th, and Vandy could be forced to make some decisions. Now, because of the denial of this temporary restraining order, this puts this case into the hands of the court now. They have to set a hearing, and as everything we know about courts, they're not fast, they're not expedient. They just kind of go with their own pace. So the NCAA is going to get a chance to respond and state their case and give, which I think ultimately is good if they do it in a timely manner. But usually these things, you just don't know. And his eligibility kind of hangs in the balance. Vandy's quarterback plans kind of hang in the balance because you obviously want him back for a second season. You want him back to have one more hurrah there because he's been so influential. He's been so impactful with this team. So that's kind of what you want. But they're going to have to make some decisions. They're going to have to decide because this transfer portal market goes quick, right? Especially at the quarterback position. All the you don't want to be in a situation to where I don't know what Nate Johnson provides. I don't know that they believe a whole lot in Nate Johnson. I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure where that stands. I'm not sure where these freshmen stand. I don't know what they want to do with the quarterback position. I think obviously they would like to have Pavia back for another season, have these freshmen learn and go from there. But you may not get that luxury, and you may be forced to make a decision with the quarterback position sooner than you want to. Like, do you just move on from Diego Pavia and assume that he's just not going to win this case or not going to win it in a timely manner to where he can come back? Is it going to be a case where this thing is heard quickly before the portal opens and you know whether to look or not, or like you have all these ideas are going to be kicked around because they're going to have to move quick, because if there's a quarterback out there that would fit into this system and make them instantly better, it's their responsibility to go make this team better. whether that's Diego Pavia or not, like you can't be stuck waiting on the courts to decide something, and you have to take action. And I don't know what that means for Nate Johnson. I don't know if he's going to be in the portal. I don't know what evaluation process looks like for these quarterbacks. Blaise Berlowitz, Drew Dickey, Jackson Muschamp, St. Hilaire, Jeremiah St. Hilaire. I don't know what the decision process is like for these quarterbacks, but you have some decisions to make because you have a bunch of guys out there that you've looked at, you've evaluated that may or may not move on. You have some decisions to make within the portal to know, okay, well, this is what we need to do at the quarterback position. This court case could make a huge impact on that decision because, hey, if Diego Pavia comes back, well, Nate Johnson might look elsewhere. I certainly wouldn't blame him because he obviously wants a chance to play. And I don't think any quarterback wants to sit on the bench all the time. So if he has an opportunity to play somewhere, he's going to take it. And same with Drew Dickey, same with Blaise Berlowitz. Like you just gotta get into a situation to where, hey, I gotta, these quarterbacks also have to evaluate for themselves. Hey, is staying here in my best interest? Do I want to test the waters as well? Like how does this whole thing shake out? Because if you sit, I do know this though, okay, because it's such an unknown thing with the transfer portal. Like you almost have to have a group that recruits the roster. Like you have to have great relationships, and you just have to understand that you're going to lose some people every single year. It's just the nature of the beast. From Georgia on down to Bowling Green, like you're going to lose people, right? You're going to, guys are going to switch over. Guys are going to get into different situations, or guys are going to be elevated. Like, Van Buren at Mississippi State, like Mississippi State Jeff Levy better do a great job of recruiting him again, because LSU might come calling, Texas A&M might come calling, Florida might come calling, like Florida State. Like there's somebody that's going to come after Van Buren because this is the Wild West. This is, so you've got to make some decisions. You've got to say, okay, well, hey, Marcel Reese, he might be back out on the market. He would be perfect in this Vandy offense. Gio Rodriguez down at or Gio Lopez, down at South Alabama, he would also be a really good fit in this Vandy offense. But you have to figure out what you want, and you've got to figure out what your plans are. So, and I think you've got to have different levels of plans. Like, hey, let's say, for example, Diego Pavia does not win this case. He's gone. Okay, is Nate Johnson your guy, or do you want to go get somebody, right? Or is Jack Elliott from the high school ranks, is he going to come into the system and develop behind the other guys and kind of get in the mix of the quarterbacks of Vandy's future? Like, what do you do? Do you continue to go the portal route? Do you develop the guys you have on your roster and shore up other positions through the portal? What do you do? And there's a lot of these roster decisions they're going to have to really, really, really go through. But the quarterback position really, I think, and it's a good problem to have. Like you're wondering if Diego Pavia is going to come back. Let's say he wins his case. Obviously, you welcome him back. He's a great leader, really good quarterback, really competitive, is a weapon. You have to bring him back for a second year, third year in the system, but second year on your roster, And if you bring him back, what does that mean for Nate Johnson? It probably means he's gone. I don't think Nate Johnson came to sit for 2 years. I think he understood once Pavia stepped foot on campus, hey, I'm probably going to sit for a year and learn, which is fine. But now what does that do to him? What does that do to Drew Dickey? Like that just makes things more muddy for Drew Dickey and Blaise Berlowitz, especially because you've got these talented freshmen that are now going to be entering their redshirt freshman year. You've got another freshman that's coming in with Elliott. So, you've got a pretty muddied quarterback situation, and I think Drew Dickey and Blaise Berlowitz can play. They should get some opportunity to make some runs somewhere, right? I could see one of them going to Western Kentucky and slinging it around. Like I could see them going into a G5 program, starting and having a really successful successful career. And I wouldn't blame them one bit. I would actually be happy for them. Anybody that transfers for the right reasons, I think you kind of have to be happy for them and supportive. But all of these dominoes rely on Diego Pavia's situation. Does he win his case? Does he win it in a timely manner? Does it force Vanderbilt to make a decision before it wants to or before he hears anything? Does it, what's going to happen with this? This is going to be an ongoing thing. When they set the date, that'll give them more concrete, hey, we got to have a decision made. We got to have a decision, and we got to have a plan A, B, and C, and you're probably going to end up going with plan D in that scenario. So you just got to see who's out there on the market. You got to just see what's happening with all that. And you got to be super aggressive. Hell, Tim Beck, you got to see if he's going to be around. Like his name is being tossed around a little bit. And he could be a commodity in the offseason as well. Like the coaching carousel could also jump up and grab a couple of these Vandy guys. You have a successful season, some guys looking to move up. Well, hey, you had a really successful season, kind of this option football scheme thing, or on defense side of the ball, Clark Lee is a good defense coordinator to learn under. Like, okay, hey, we're over here at Buffalo, and we're going to give you an opportunity to be our defensive coordinator because, hey, you learned under Clark Lee. We trust your judgment. Hey, you did a little bit at New Mexico. We're going to give you that shot. So there's a lot of dominoes that are going to fall here. It's just the fact that, going back to Diego Pavia, what's going to happen there? Is he going, where's Vandy leaning? What are their plans? Does he feel good about getting this extra year of eligibility? How does that, how does Vandy, what's the confidence level in that from Vandy's perspective? Hey, are we pretty sure he's coming back or going to be able to come back? Does Diego Pavia pretty sure he's going to be able to come back? All that's going to unfold fairly quickly. The temporary restraining order was supposed to buy some time on that to where he was going to be granted that, where they couldn't deny. But again, it's all over eligibility and NIL potential and all that stuff. So